Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time I'm reaching yet. Welcome to another video. Today we are going to just be wrapping up our human rights unit. One last video and kind of going forward next steps. So today we are looking at human rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Again, what does the Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms cover and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms cover, and then going forward. So let's jump right in. First, we did start talking about global quality of life a little bit. So let's just review and recap on that really quickly. So firstly, we all see quality of life differently. And no matter where you are on the globe, that affects it. Where you were raised, what your ethnicity is, things like that. And so quality of life include everything that factors into whether you are happy, content, and enjoying the life that you have, right? And that is different wherever you live and whoever you are. Here in Canada, it's a lot different. We value healthcare and work and things like that. Whereas Southern Africa, maybe work isn't as important. Maybe they live in a communal village there, or even Southern Manitoba for that matter. A communal village where everyone pitches in. You go to some of the Hutterite colonies around Manitoba. It's a community. Having that job and that work is just kind of part of your day. It's not a priority to you, and it's not part of what makes your life quality. Rather, family, friends, community, those are important things. Healthcare. And so a lot of the times, I feel like this is almost, we take things for granted. And those are the things that really don't factor into our quality life. They do, but we don't recognize it. So very interesting fact. And in fact, going forward as we talk about human rights, whether or not we take something for granted really does factor into our human rights. So quality of life, and then we also talked about a standard of living, which is a little bit different than quality of life, right? Standard of living is where you are economically, and so in regards to work and what kind of physical assets you have in your life. Do you have a house? Do you have a nice car? Things like that. And again, some people equate those to having a quality life, but as we discussed, that is not necessarily always the case, right? Maybe you could be wealthy but really sad, or you could be quote unquote poor but have a wonderful life living in a jungle or living in the bush just outside of the city, but you're happy, you're content, you love the peacefulness of your life, right? Two different things. So as we move on, kind of DHRF, and again, that stands for the Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms. So again, that was set out by the UN, and I guess in part World Health Organization eventually is part of this, but set out in the UN December 10th, 1948, right, at the General Assembly. And it is a global document that affects everyone in this world we live in. All the United Nations participating countries are part of it, and it applies to all of them. It's been translated into over 500 different languages, okay? So that it is universal and, meets its own goal of being available for everyone. So it contains 30 articles declaring what is right and what is not in regards to racism, belonging, everything that governs human interaction, basically, and socialization. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into exactly what that covers as we look at the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms as well. But for now, we're just looking at how it has 30 articles, and that covers everything from the right to freedom of movement, practicing religion, the right to a fair trial, should you be arrested type thing, gender equality, nationality equality, members of society, the right to work, free choice, rest and leisure, education, everything under the sun is covered in there at some point. And again, if you violate the Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms, it comes with consequences as well, right? And that is a legal binding document that we can be charged with violating. And so in Canada, we have a specific Charter of Rights and Freedoms that is specific to Canadians, but it covers all sorts of articles that the Declaration of Human Rights does as well. And it protects against these things: fundamental freedoms, democratic freedoms, mobility freedoms and rights, legal rights, equality rights, and language rights. So when we say fundamental freedoms, we're talking about the right to freedom to practice religion, freedom to think whatever we want, speak our minds, gather peacefully in a group to protest or speak our mind. We're talking democratic rights, so that is in regards to running for government, voting for government. Everyone has the right to vote and be elected. Mobility rights. We have the right to enter and remain or leave the country as we wish. We're permanent residents. We can reside here. You've got legal rights to life, liberty, physical and physiological safety. No one can be deprived of these rights. It's just not legal or fair. The right to be presumed innocent when it comes to law enforcement. And all sorts of other things are covered under the democratic freedoms, or the legal rights, sorry. We also have equality rights, and I think that one's pretty straightforward. Equality of ethnicity, color, religion, sex, age, mental, physical disability, sexual orientation, marital status, citizenship, all of those equality rights. So just because you have dual citizenship, or you live in Canada but you're not quite a Canadian citizen, and you have citizenship in anywhere else in the world, does not mean that you should not be treated equal to everybody else in this country, right? We have language rights. Obviously, Canada has two legal languages, English and French, but you are free to speak any other language you want. And then there's all sorts of other minority language educational rights that are more provincial based. You know, in Quebec, you have the right to French language, as you do in Manitoba as well. And things like that, okay? So our Charter of Rights and Freedoms covers a ton of things, and they're just written in a more specific to Canada type way. So let's look at next steps. What are the next steps? Meaning, what should we do with this information now that we know it? Well, it's certainly necessary to know what your rights are and what you are entitled to, so that should those be violated and taken away from you, or you feel like they've been taken away from you, you can take actions and next steps to fix that problem, right? Also, it helps us to know what everyone else's rights are and whether we are violating other people's rights and freedoms. And I think a lot of these we just take for granted and know. You know, you can't be racist, you can't be sexist, you can't be ageist. You should treat people that are mentally different than us the same, and things like that, right? And most of those seems pretty straightforward, but we're talking globally, and it's a great reminder as well to make sure that we are doing our best to not take away these legal rights that everybody else has. So with that, I will tell you, you should go do the Google Forms video response if you haven't been doing it already as we've been going. Look over previous videos and reading lessons, notes and worksheets, and get yourself ready for the mastery check. And this is the last lesson in the unit, so we will be heading straight to a human rights end of unit quiz test type thing. So make sure you know what your human rights are. and what those of around you are.